Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining me. My name's David, and this is my channel. Today's video is called We Each Interpret Our World into Our Own Truth and Reality. This is really important to understand because it's the idea that there is no one world out there. And although that can be hard to understand or see, it is imperative for each one of us to recognize the truth of it. Because this world is being interpreted by each one of us, then it must be neutral first. And this is the key. Why don't you recognize that every single thing that you're experiencing, seeing as far as matter goes, every personality, person, soul, place is neutral. It has no meaning of its own. It is not its own cause. It's an effect. It's your effect. Therefore, you are the cause of it. Then you will see if there is no cause out there, then there is no one consensus or one idea of a world that can push against you. The question you should always ask yourself is, how can an effect push against a cause? And that is the end of fear and the ego. The ego just simply switches them. It says you are no longer the cause, you are the effect of the world. And the world is indeed the cause. The biggest issue with that, and where the ego makes its mistake so we can find it, because it's all about finding the ego, it stays very hidden, right? It's hard to see. Is there would have to be many causes out there. In other words, there have to be many sources, and you would have to be the effect of those sources. So why don't you understand that this is a cause and effect world? Then you will realize that you are the cause of everything you experience and everything that you seemingly feel is your reality and your truth. In other words, everything you believe is true for you, for each one of us. That's why there's no arguments, that's why there's no controversy, that's why there's no competitiveness, and there's also no comparisons. These are all pushing us, each one of us, against ourself only, our one perspective against our other perspective. Because the key is to understand that your inside perspective and your outside perspectives are coming from the same center, the same place. So now, from that understanding, we have two main ways to interpret this world. And this will always be like this. No matter where we are, we will always be able to interpret it based on these two ideas. One of them is the ego, and yes, the other one is your source, your higher perspective, or that of perfect love, unconditional love. If we talk about the ego interprets everything separate. Therefore, that person's separate than that person. Person is separate from that person. Does that make sense? This drink is separate from another drink, and so forth and so on. So now, the more you recognize how much it has separated everything, then you will see it all has all different meanings and no commonality. It looks and seems like it has no one source. This is why it's so important to understand when they say in the Bible, be still and know that I am God, the great I am, one source. You see that we all are and we all share. This is also the idea of search for who's behind the voice. Where is the ego? Where's that entity that's behind the voice that's coming up with all these different personalities that are within you? Where are those sources outside of us that seem to be pushing against us? Can you find them? This is a great thing to do. Can you find all those pushings? Where are they at? Where's the person or the entity that's behind your money not flowing? Or where's the entity that's behind the body that seems to be hurting in all these different places? We search and we search and we cannot find it. Notice, and the more you recognize, fear in itself is just pushing against something. There's somehow we are defending ourselves from something else. Can you feel that? There's a defense. I'm defending myself from this and from that and from this, whether if it's the body or maybe the money not flowing or maybe the business not working. My car just broke down. I can't believe that. And why would you say that about me? We're in consistent state of defense and reaction. But what are we reacting and defending ourselves against? Where's the source? Well, it's them, and it's that, and it's this. But then all of a sudden it's the weather, and I don't like the rain. Well, okay, now there's that source. Or maybe I don't like that color. There's that source. It seems to be pushing against me. I don't like it. So there's this consistent state of defense because we believe we're being attacked. Now, where's that come from? Well, when you put it together with cause and effect, you will see that it makes you feel like you're an effect of the outside world. Does that make sense? I feel the effect of this pushing against me. Therefore, I must defend myself against it. Either in my mind, in my words, working hard, pushing against things, wanting this to work out for me. I got to do this. These are all a sense of defenses against your present moment. My present moment, I'm not satisfied. I need to be here. I'm not here. See the split? And now we're searching and moving for something that we can't seem to find. There's no source of it. So now, fear, worry, doubt, these are all some kind of fight, so to speak, against something else, against an opponent, so to speak, outside of us, regardless if it's in the body, regardless if it's in our bank account, or next door neighbor, or the world, or the news. It's the same opponent, and that is the ego that has split through interpreting all of this into a way of separation. And the more we recognize that all of that can be consolidated into one place, which is that ego mind that takes something that was whole and one and connected and trying to make it into a place of separation in order to put it against itself. But if I can convince you that interpretation, that ego itself coming from each one of us. So it goes out split already. That's what we talk about the veil. It has lots of holes in it. So as it comes out of us, it splits into all what we see, all the different things, places, people, and it gives them all meaning that don't match. That's the ego's interpretation. That's the interpretation of fear. We're not one, it says. We are separate. And if we are separate, we must have many, many separate sources. Where are they? That's why you'll hear, go within the one heart, into the quiet awareness of who you are, and you will feel yourself join with all of creation. There's only one. How can there be many? And this is where the ego loses its power when you recognize this. That in order for that world and all of that meaning to be coming from outside, from everyone else, there would have to be many, many, many different sources. And where are they? Where are those sources? There's nowhere to be found. That's why there's blame. That's why there's projection. And that's why our mind is full of an unseen attacker. that seems to be attacking us on a regular basis and forcing each one of us to defend ourselves against this unseen opponent. I can't seem to find it. First, it was my pain. Then it was my money. Then I stomped my foot. You see, then this food didn't taste good. It's just consistently changing itself, isn't it? One unseen attacker in many, many, many different places, many different people. But yet it's one. It's that one ego's interpretation into this world, coming back in the form of many, 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 many different sources of fear or attack or worry or doubt. Do you see? Think about negative emotion. The thing about negative emotion is you need two against each other. You can't have fear unless you have something against love. You see? Fear is an attack against love. It's a lack of love. You can't have frustration unless you have two people or two things that don't agree. Can you feel that? That's what, oh, I'm so frustrated. It's taking that which was once one and moving them into two in order to push against themselves. The idea of negative, like we say, negative is missing. Something's missing here and I can't seem to find it. If it's missing, then I used to be whole. Something has been taken away from me, and now I feel like something is taking my wholeness away from me. Can you see how this works? And that's the ego's perspective, the ego's interpretation. And the more we recognize it's not each one of us interpreting anything, it's using that interpretation in an individual way in order to interpret our world. But can I convince you that if you were the center, and this is where sacred geometry really helps, you have a whole world around you. It's your world. It's your world. Everything you experience and see is your synchronized world. And each one of us has a whole world, a whole world, a whole world. And then if you look at all those circles, you say, where's the one? Where is the one world that we all share? And you will not find it. You create your particular world. And each person out there that you see creates their own particular world. And the more we recognize that truth, that is what lets go of what we call that idea of duality. There's an outside and there's an inside, and they're different and they're fighting each other. Then you can go within to the heart, the one heart that we all share, and start interpreting your life in the moment from the place of the holy self, the Holy Spirit that Jesus spoke about, the kingdom where we all are one. Unconditional love. I have learned that the way to let go of that ego's interpretation that is going out and coming back in the form of fear and separation is to allow others to be as they are, because we're holding perspectives about them that are not true. And recognize every single person in your life that you believe is a certain way is not true. It's your perspective of yourself coming from your ego's interpretation. And then let it go. Recognize I'm seeing this from an interpretation of something that's not true, because I'm seeing it from a separate interpretation instead of interpretation of oneness and love and connection and wholeness. And these are the only ways we'll ever interpret this world. It's either going through the veil or it's coming out through two eyes. Notice your two eyes become one. Right? We don't see two. We can either interpret through the veil and see many, many sources, and then it will come back in that way. Like things pegging us. Little fireballs coming back. Crum, crum, crum. We're defending ourselves from them, reacting to them. And now we create a reactionary world that doesn't exist based on interpretation that is false. Or we can look through and see one. Can't you see it? One. Everything, one. You're seeing through your eyes. Everything you see is coming through one source. Can you see? It's all coming from you. And what you see will come back in terms of one. This is the interpretation of the Holy Self, the Holy Spirit. It sees everything as itself. Therefore, it allows all things to be as it is. And as you allow all perspectives that seem to once push against you to come in through faith and trust, they will automatically merge back into the one from which they came. And from this new perspective, the world must shift, because now you see it as yourself. And now you see it in an unconditionally loving way of connection and wholeness. And now your world will become your synchronicity, and it will serve you perfectly as it was supposed to. Take this with you. As always, it is up to you what you receive. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to express this to you in order to receive back from myself. And thank you for being a part of my synchronicity of my life. Hit the like button if it speaks to you. Subscribe and share. And as always, keep your comments coming. I love them. I love to hear from you guys. Thank you for all of your unconditional love. And as always, my unconditional love to you and my appreciation as well.